5 years ago now, I adopted a tiny little skinny greyhound girl called Daisy, and she'd done some 80 races before she came to me, and she left us very suddenly this spring. And I'd like to use this video to tell you her story. Daisy was one of those dogs who just seemed to be destined to come to me. I originally met her at an event and she was absolutely petrified. She just wedged her head against my leg and wouldn't move. And it was almost as if she was saying, please help, take me away, I can't cope. It turned out she had a viewing, and so I put her out of my mind. And then I queried back with the trust later on and found that the people had decided to choose a different dog because Daisy was too quiet for them. So I went along and met her, and she came home, and that was that. Strangely enough, I discovered that her racing name was Unexpected, which seemed just a little bit strange. In the beginning, when we got her home, I found she had the most appalling teeth I had ever seen on a greyhound. And she had to have a dental immediately, which was not the best start, especially for a girl as nervous as her. I found it very hard to get any weight on her. She had a really sensitive tummy, and being so neurotic did not help her to put on weight. She was scared of everything. And I remember in those first few weeks, she would try to wedge herself on a little corner at the bottom of my stairs and hide in the darkness. She developed a hyper attachment to me. It had to be me, nobody else. And she followed me everywhere as if we were attached at the hip. I spent the first 6 weeks sleeping on the sofa because she couldn't cope with me going upstairs, and gradually moved upstairs over a further few weeks. Despite this, she still came for a fuss and some attention whenever I stood still or sat still. And this was how we named our downstairs toilet the patting room. So over that first year, Daisy gradually came out of her shell and turned out to be really quite a lively and cheeky madam. Not at all the dog that those other people had turned away and chosen another one instead of. She would stand up to Gandalf and boss him around, the only one of my dogs that would, and the only top one at the time that would play with Gandalf. It sometimes took a bit of persuading, but eventually she would give in, and she really did give him his own. She'd answer back if he tried to steal her bed or her food. So this quiet little tiny madam was really quite strong underneath that mild exterior. She had her favourite teddies, and they had to be kept in her boudoir, as we called it, which originally was a crate and then an area of the room fenced off with a room divider where only Daisy went, and she kept all her favourite toys in there. If one of the other dogs had the audacity to take one of her toys and bring it out into the garden, Daisy would stand and watch, staring as if looks could kill, until they put that toy down. Then she'd grab it and take it back and put it safely back in her boudoir, out of harm's way. She was petrified of fireworks, and this originally was the reason for her having the crate, because the crate was her safe place to go to when there were fireworks. She would hide in there with her thunder shirt on and with her music on and with the spray, and that would be just enough to keep things under control for her. I definitely think she relied on routines to keep her feeling calm. Everything had to be just so. So when it came to lying down, she would make 3 passes along the wall before she could lie down. She was only prepared to sleep in certain places, and she was a real homebody. It was as if it was her security blanket. She really didn't like being away from home, even if it was just for one night or an afternoon for that matter. At the same time, she was a real little trooper. She was perfect to walk. You hardly knew she was on the end of the lead, and she was friendly to people and dogs that she met. In many ways, she was the epitome of the perfect greyhound, and she became quite the star at local awareness events at Pets at Home during the year that they were done in Solihull. We lost her very suddenly. She was only age 9. I had no expectation there was anything wrong with her. She'd been vaccinated about 2 months prior, and the vet had not picked up on anything. However, she was taken ill On a Saturday morning, I thought she was very quiet. She didn't want a breakfast. We offered her some toast and she didn't want that, and I knew something was wrong. So I checked over her vitals and discovered she had a really high temperature. This ended up with us taking a trip to the vets. And when we got there, the vet couldn't really tell what was going on, but we had some medication to bring her temperature down. And then when we got home, she passed urine that was mostly blood. And I knew it was not going to end well. We did take a sample in for testing, but it was so thick that they struggled to get any decent results from it. So I kept her at home and kept her quiet, and she just got quieter and quieter and didn't seem to be in pain, but really was barely there. And on the Monday morning, I had a local vet come to put her to sleep in the house. So in the space of just about 48 hours, we went from a happy, healthy, bouncy little girl to no Daisy. So it was all a big shock. And I think it was more of a shock with her going so very suddenly, because being such a tiny girl, she still took up a huge space in our hearts. And I wanted to share this with you just to illustrate how quickly they can come, how quickly they can go, and the importance, therefore, of making the most of every day that you have with them. That's all for today. I'll see you again soon. Bye for now.